Ladies, there comes a time in every woman's life when she must remember who the hell she is. This is that time. You gave your all, your love was real, your intentions were pure, and your loyalty never wavered. But he took your love for granted, mistook your kindness for weakness, and believed you'd never walk away. Well, guess what? Now he's gonna feel what it's like to lose a woman like you. Not through shouting, not through chasing, but through silence, through your evolution, through the undeniable glow that comes from choosing yourself. You don't have to beg for love. You don't need to prove your worth. The moment you stop trying to fix what he kept breaking is the moment he starts to feel the weight of his own foolishness. Let your absence speak. Let your peace haunt him. Let your growth remind him daily of what he lost. Not because you want revenge, but because you finally understand that you are the prize. So don't look back. Don't check his page. Don't hope he texts. You're not trying to make him hurt. You're just making sure that next time, he won't forget what it felt like to lose a woman who brought everything to the table, before anything else. You must know who you are, not just on the surface, not just your name, your job, or how others see you, but deep within. You need to reconnect with the woman who has weathered storms, who has loved even when it hurt, who has stayed soft in a world that tried to harden her. That's not weakness. That's strength beyond measure. You loved him with a heart that was open, raw, and real. You gave more than you were ever asked to, and sometimes even more than you had to give. You were his safe place, his home, his peace. You showed up, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, expecting only what you gave in return: honesty, loyalty, and effort. But instead you were met with inconsistency, neglect, and the kind of love that only shows up when it's convenient. Let that sink in, not to shame yourself, but to wake yourself up. He didn't pull away because you lacked something. He pulled away because he didn't know what to do with someone who was everything. And that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of his inability to value something real. Some people don't recognize diamonds because they've only ever played with glass. So stop questioning yourself. Stop trying to shrink, to fit into the small spaces he offered. Your worth isn't measured by how someone treats you. It's measured by how you treat yourself. Once you realize they never could, you are not hard to love. You are just too real for someone who isn't ready. The moment you begin to see yourself clearly, the moment you truly understand what you bring to the table, you'll stop chasing people who only bring folding chairs. Your energy is sacred. Your presence is a privilege. And your heart, it's not a playground for someone who doesn't know how to love gently. So hold your head high, reclaim your space, and let the world adjust to the version of you that finally knows her own value. There is a kind of power that doesn't shout. It doesn't slam doors or write long, angry texts. It doesn't beg, plead, or try to explain itself over and over again. That power is silence. And when wielded with intention, silence can be louder than any scream, more piercing than any insult, and more haunting than any goodbye. You see, when someone is used to having access to you, your time, your love, your energy, your silence becomes unsettling. It shifts the balance. It forces them to face the echo of everything they took for granted. Suddenly, your absence speaks in ways your presence never could. It whispers the truth they tried to ignore. You're done explaining, done waiting, done hoping they'll change. Silence is not weakness. It's control. It's you choosing peace over chaos, self-respect over chasing, and dignity over emotional outbursts. When you stop responding, they start reflecting. When you go quiet, they start questioning. Your silence becomes the mirror they refuse to look into when you were still trying to fix things with words. And here's the thing, your silence doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't need to come with a final speech or a grand announcement. It's in the things you no longer say, the calls you don't return, the texts you leave unread, the way you quietly remove your energy from someone who abused it. that shift, that stillness, that's when they feel the loss most deeply, because the truth is, they never expected you to go quiet. They expected you to fight. They expected you to beg for clarity, for closure, for love. But instead you chose yourself. You chose to heal without an audience, to walk away with grace, to say nothing, not because you didn't care, but because you finally did. And while they're scrolling, wondering if you've moved on, while they're replaying memories, hoping for a reaction, you're over here building peace, protecting your energy, and writing a new chapter where their noise no longer has a place. Silence isn't the absence of power, it is power. It is the loudest way to say, I'm done. And nothing confuses someone more than a woman who no longer needs to be heard to be felt. One of the hardest things to accept, especially when your heart is big and your intentions are pure, is that some things are not yours to fix. Not every broken man is your project. Not every relationship is meant to be repaired, and not every wound was yours to bleed from in the first place. You kept trying to understand his moods, trying to be enough, trying to make it work when he was barely meeting you halfway. You thought love meant holding it all together, even when it was tearing you apart. You were the glue, the forgiver, the one constantly adjusting yourself to keep the peace. Because deep down, you believed that if you just did a little more, loved a little harder, stayed a little longer, he'd finally realize your worth. But here's the truth. You can't save someone who keeps setting the house on fire and then hands you the bucket. You can't keep watering a relationship where you're the only one holding the hose. You can't heal in the same place you're being hurt in. Fixing something becomes self-destruction when it requires you to break yourself to keep it alive. You don't owe anyone the version of you that constantly sacrifices her joy to keep another person comfortable. That's not love. That's survival. And a relationship should never feel like a battlefield where you're constantly dodging emotional landmines just to hold on to the illusion of closeness. Yes, walking away might feel like giving up, but staying in something that drains your spirit isn't strength, it's slow erosion. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared so much for so long that now you're choosing to care for yourself. You can't fix what someone refuses to acknowledge is broken. You can't teach someone to value you when they're busy testing how far they can push before you break. That's not your lesson to teach. That's their karma to learn. So release the need to be the hero in someone else's story. You don't need to stay in places that keep wounding you just to prove you're loyal. Let go, not because it didn't matter, but because you do. Sometimes the most powerful healing begins with the words, "This is not mine to fix." There's a certain kind of quiet vengeance that doesn't require you to raise your voice, throw shade, or plot your next move. It doesn't involve proving anyone wrong, showing off online, or making dramatic statements. No. This kind of revenge is far more powerful, far more lasting. It's called healing. Healing is what happens when you stop picking at the wounds they left behind. When you no longer need an apology to find your peace. When you wake up one morning and realize without tears, without anger, that their absence no longer stings and their name no longer carries weight. That's when the shift happens. That's when you reclaim yourself. You see, pain is temporary, but so is being lost in it. And while they may have broken your heart, they didn't break you. Your healing is the proof of that. Every step you take forward, every boundary you build, every time you choose peace over chaos, you're writing a new story, one where you are no longer the woman they left behind, but the woman they'll never be able to reach again. Because real revenge isn't looking good, so he sees it. It's feeling good and not caring if he does. It's laughing again, genuinely. It's falling in love with your life, your growth, your reflection. It's showing up for yourself the way you once showed up for him. And let's be honest, there is nothing more unsettling to someone who once had control over you than seeing you thrive without them. That glow, that peace, that energy that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't break. It rattles them. Because deep down, they know you would have given them everything. And now you're giving that energy to yourself. and to people who actually deserve it. Healing is powerful because it's personal. It's not for show, it's not for social media, it's for your soul. It's in the quiet nights where you choose rest over ruminating. It's in the days you no longer check your phone, hoping for their name. It's in the way your smile reaches your eyes again. Let them wonder how you moved on. Let them feel the emptiness they created. Let them scroll, stalk, reminisce, while you keep blooming in places they never watered. Healing doesn't scream. It doesn't chase. It doesn't rage. It simply says, I survived, and I'm better now. There's a moment in every story like yours when it becomes painfully clear he didn't see you. Not really. He saw the comfort, the loyalty, the love, but he never truly saw you. He thought your presence was permanent. He mistook your patience for passivity, your forgiveness for weakness, your consistency for something that would never leave, no matter how little he gave in return. He took you for granted because he thought you'd never stop showing up. He believed you'd always be the one to reach out first, to fix things, to carry the emotional weight of the relationship. He relied on the fact that you cared too much to walk away. He thought you'd stay because that's what you always did. He never realized that a woman like you has limits, that even the softest heart will go cold when it's neglected long enough, that the same love that once poured into him so freely could one day be redirected inward, toward healing, toward growth, toward yourself. And while he was busy playing games, half loving you, and acting as if your energy was disposable, he failed to recognize he was being gifted something rare, your all. You don't give that to just anyone. You don't open up that deeply, love that fiercely, stay that faithfully, for just any man. But he treated you like an option, while you made him a priority. The truth is, people don't always realize they've taken someone for granted until the silence replaces the conversation, the distance replaces the warmth, and the absence feels heavier than they ever expected. And that's where he is now, or where he will be, sitting with the weight of his own disregard, realizing that what he thought would always be there isn't. You were the one who remembered the little things, who showed up when it mattered, who gave love without conditions, who listened, supported, encouraged and loved, through things you never spoke about. You were the constant in a world full of variables, and he misread that as weakness, instead of the rare strength it actually was. He took you for granted because he thought he had time. He thought he had you wrapped around in consistency. But what he didn't know was that every time he dismissed your needs, overlooked your effort, and pushed your heart to the edge, you were quietly reaching a point of no return. And now, he's left with the echo of what he lost. The kind of love people spend lifetimes searching for but only get once. That's not your pain anymore. That's his to sit with.
There's something revolutionary about the moment a woman wakes up and finally remembers who she is. Not just the version of herself that someone tried to shrink, not the one who was overlooked, undervalued, or constantly put in a position to prove her worth. No, she remembers the version of herself that existed before the heartbreak, before the dimming, before the second guessing, before the exhausting cycle of pouring into someone who only gave back in fragments. You are the prize, not in an arrogant, look at me kind of way, but in a quiet, deeply rooted, unshakable truth kind of way. The kind that doesn't beg for validation because it knows. The kind that walks away when respect is no longer on the table. The kind that doesn't compete for attention because attention to you isn't the same as affection, commitment, or consistency. You bring things to the table that can't be bought, imitated, or easily replaced. Your empathy, your intuition, your ability to love deeply and still stand tall after being let down. Your laugh, your presence, your light. These are not ordinary. These are gifts. And they are not for the emotionally unavailable, the half-hearted, or the commitment-phobic to mishandle. But somewhere along the way, maybe you forgot that. Maybe you let someone else's inability to see your value convince you that you had none. Maybe you shrank. Maybe you tried harder. Maybe you lost yourself in proving your place in someone else's world, when in reality they were never qualified to hold space in yours. And now is the time to rise, to remember that you are not someone who waits to be chosen. You do the choosing. You don't chase, you attract. You don't prove, you embody. When you carry yourself with the confidence of someone who knows their worth, the whole energy shifts, because people can feel when a woman knows she's the prize. It's in the way she walks away with grace, in the way she doesn't flinch when someone tries to devalue her, in the way she holds her boundaries, not out of spite, but out of deep self-love. You are not something to be earned through pain. You are not a reward for someone's inconsistency to eventually figure out. You are the reward, the prize, the miracle they took for granted, the experience they'll never be able to replicate. When the dust settles and the noise fades, you'll come to a crossroads. Do you keep carrying the weight of what was, or do you finally choose you? And that decision, though it may feel wrapped in anger at first, cannot be rooted in revenge, because healing that's built on hurting someone else isn't real healing. It's just a different kind of bondage, and you deserve better than that. You didn't walk away to prove a point. You didn't start healing to make him jealous. You didn't glow up so he'd notice. You did it because your soul was tired, because you were done performing emotional gymnastics for someone who applauded your pain and ignored your effort, because somewhere deep within you, a quiet voice whispered, "This isn't love, this isn't you," and you finally listened. True movement, real evolution doesn't come from bitterness. It comes from clarity, from realizing that staying stuck in a space that was draining you just to spite him means he's still controlling your peace. And peace is sacred. It's not something you sacrifice just to make a point. It's something you protect. So let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them think you're moving on to get back at them. You don't owe anyone an explanation, because at the end of the day, this isn't about making him feel your absence. It's about you feeling your presence again. It's about waking up and choosing joy that isn't tied to someone else's inconsistency. It's about rebuilding your self-worth on your terms, not as a response to his rejection, but as a celebration of your rebirth. You're not moving forward to hurt him. You're moving forward because staying hurt was hurting you. And that's a cycle you finally decided to break. So you cut the cord, not to punish him, but to free yourself. You let go, not to get under his skin, but to get back under yours. You rise, not to be seen by him, but to finally see yourself clearly again. Because when you move on for you, the healing is real. It sticks, it transforms you, and it carries you into a future where your joy isn't conditional, your peace isn't negotiable, and your heart finally beats for you. So now, let him feel it. Let him sit in the silence he created. Let him feel the void where your love used to live, the space that once held your laughter, your support, your unwavering presence. Let him taste the absence of the woman who gave him everything, and let that silence echo louder than any words you could have spoken. But most of all, let yourself feel what freedom tastes like. The kind of freedom that comes when you stop shrinking, stop chasing, stop waiting. When you finally understand that you were never too much, you were just too much for someone who was never enough. You don't have to slam doors or burn bridges. You don't need to announce your evolution. Just keep rising, quietly, steadily, unapologetically. Because the real glow up isn't about who notices you once you're gone. It's about who you become when you're no longer trying to be seen. You are not his loss, he is yours. And now, he'll feel it every single day.